On tonight's episode of The Truth Ride, we speak with local comedian and community leader Cody Michael from our new interview location inside of the Lion's Den Barbershop. Later, the Barry Washington Jr. Permanent Memorial was unveiled. We speak with the community members and Barry's mother on what it means to have this memorial unveiled after 4 years of fighting to have it. Finally, the volleyball playoffs have begun. Find out what happened when we showed up at Ben High's first game against the Central Panthers. Buckle up your seatbelts. The Truth Ride's about to begin.
It's just us against the world. I ain't perfect, but I know it. Can get caught up in my feelings, so sometimes it's hard to show it. Every day I'm chasing money. First I save it, then I blow it. I done came so damn far, still don't know where I be going. Let the truth ride. Got a lot of fam that hold it down. I'm talking both sides, so anytime a nigga wanna joke, the dark night rise. I'm tired of walking around. It's time to see a dark guy fly. So catch me when I land, cause I be high. Ayy. Let the truth ride, ayy, let the truth ride, yeah. Let the truth ride, ayy, let the truth ride, yeah. Let the truth ride, ayy, let the truth ride, yeah. Let the truth ride, ayy, let the truth ride, yeah.
Welcome to The Truth Ride, a community talk show where we talk about local, national, and world events, getting the info and bringing it right back to you, our people, so we can be informed, man. I'm your host, Ricardo, and let's go ahead and fall into our first topic, which is high school volleyball. Now, if you are new to We Black Radio, or if you haven't tuned in for a while, We Black Radio is in its second year of covering selected high school sports. So if you know anyone who is a sports journalist or who may be looking to get into sports journalism or want to help cover high school sports in the area for us, please have them email info@weblacksradio.org. That is info@weblacksradio.org for more information. The Ben Lava Bears came ready for business on Halloween night, sweeping the Central Panthers in their first playoff matchup with commanding scores of 25-16, 25-18, and 25-19. The energy inside the Ben High School gym was electric as the Bears showcased why they've been one of the most consistent teams in the region all season long. From the first serve, Ben controlled the pace of play. Their front line dominated at the net, while their back row delivered sharp, disciplined defense that shut rallies down. Every time Central threatened a rally, the Lava Bears' composure and teamwork shut the door. The victory marks Ben's first playoff win of the season and sends them to the next round with momentum and confidence. I mean, these girls were playing good volleyball. And if Friday's performance was any indication, the Lady Lava Bears are ready to make some serious noise in the postseason. Next up, on Friday the 7th, Ben's going to play West Albany in the next round of the playoffs at 10 a.m. at the Ben Lava Bears gym. I interviewed our next guest at one of our new interview locations, the Lion's Den Barbershop in Ben. I think the Lion's Den is a perfect interview place because it adds culture to the interviews. Some of these guests I will interview in the future may not have experienced any Black culture. And as we all know, some of the most real conversations come in Black barbershops and beauty shops. Here's my conversation with Cody Michael in the Lion's Den. Today, we're taking a ride into the world of comedy, that place where truth and laughter meet. My guest today is Cody Michael, a comedian, storyteller, and all-around creative force based right here in Bend, Oregon. Originally a goofy mixed-race kid from rural Iowa, Cody's now bringing his unique blend of heart and humor to stages across the Northwest and beyond. He's performed with many artists and has even taken his talent to local film and stage productions, everything from from bleeding out in a movie with me to driving a spaceship in lights, no camera, action Star Wars Live. When he's not making people laugh, he's serving his community as a financial advisor and a board member for Volunteers in Medicine of the Cascades. Welcome to the Truth Ride, Cody Michael. What's up, Cody?
Thank you for having me, man. It's good to be here.
All right, so let's just start with the basics. You called yourself a goofy, mixed-race kid from rural Iowa. Paint us that picture. What was it like growing up there, and how did that experience shape you the way you see the world today?
Yeah, that really is the question. It was interesting. I talk about this a lot in my comedy. I was one of very few people of color in my hometown. There was one other mixed girl in my class. And so together there was one black person in our class. We always used to make that joke. It was very interesting because I had kind of an observational point of view, I think, back home, because I was mixed, but there also weren't a lot of black people around. So there was a lot of white people I didn't fit in with, and there also wasn't a lot of black people for me to fit in with. So I kind of had this perspective of being on an island. And because of that, I got to observe a lot. I was always the kind of a kid that would watch first and talk later. And that's a lot of what you'll hear in my comedy is, me observing people that, maybe I wasn't in with, but I could watch. And, just talking about my perspective there. So it was very different. It's hard to describe. I have a million stories about it. But it was, I think isolating maybe is the word, but a pretty unique perspective. I think I'm better off because of it. Because I grew up in an area where I didn't have a lot of, I think community is a great thing to have, and I would prefer to have had a better version of that. But when you don't have that, you're forced to kind of build your own perspectives and not just download the ones from your community. And so I feel like in some ways I'm better for that. So I've had to develop my own opinions on things. But of course it would have been nicer to have, some kind of built-in community that was kind of missing back there.
You've been a part of the Bend comedy scene since 2019, right? Mm-hmm. What makes the scene here different? And what have you learned about yourself performing in a smaller but growing creative community? Yeah,
so I think what's unique about a place like Bend is that you have this Venn diagram of it being a small enough community where there's not 1,000 performers here necessarily to compete with, but we're a community that has a lot of tourism and there's a lot of people here that are into the arts. So there's a lot of opportunities to get on stage and not a ton of competition. So, I realized pretty early on that there would be a place for me. There's enough different stages here in town where, you can have different types of shows, different types of audiences. So it's kind of unique to have the diversity, which is maybe an interesting word for people to hear in Bend, but the diversity of types of shows and stage time that you can get without having all the competition that comes with it. You get to the bigger scenes in the major cities and things are more competitive, a little bit more cutthroat. There's a little bit more of a community aspect here. A lot of the comics are trying to help each other out. A lot of the producers are working together on things instead of competing with one another. So that part is really cool. And I think what that has taught me about myself is that I really actually do love the craft for its own sake. It really is about the laughs. It's about the community. It's about having fun.
I hate to slow this down, but we got to take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll hear more of our conversation with Cody Michael. You're listening to WBR We Black Radio, Central Oregon's only Black-owned station.
I'm Ivan Johnson. I've been a barber since 2013. My vision with this was to keep everything close-knit. We got our communities kind of spread out, so I'm trying to bring it back together with a smaller, more tight-knit, homely vibe, I found this house that converted into a barbershop, and I felt like people can just come in here and just really feel at home, and we can sit down and have some good conversations, like intimate time instead of having an industrialized room. It's more than just about a haircut. It's about the connection between you and your client, building that relationship, and it's easier to do in a calmer, quieter, more relaxed environment.
The Lion's Den, 597 Northwest Hill Street in Bend, Oregon. The Lion's Den, where kings are groomed.
Nothing's better than great coffee. The unmistakable aroma, the satisfaction of that first sip. And when you're looking to have great coffee at a great cafe, choose Bella Taza Cafe in downtown Bend. Bella Taza is the place where shared passions and open minds are encouraged. The staff is worldly and the coffee's amazing. Bella Taza is an honest, creative, community-minded cafe that has been serving our community since 2003. Head downtown and get some.
You're listening to WBR, We Black Radio, all black culture, no white filter.
This bud is kicking in.
Don't start tripping, Craig. Craig! Craig! Craig!
Hold up. I can hear my heartbeat.
Man, that's what it's supposed to do.
All right, and we're back with Cody Michael. Cody, you said your comedy blends levity and gravity, making heavy things funny and silly things profound. Can you share an example of a bit or a topic where that balance really worked?
Yeah. I think where I do it the most is with issues of race. And that's usually bringing the levity to more serious things. You know, I tell a lot of stories about growing up in Iowa, and some of them aren't easy to hear for people. I think a lot of black folks have had the same types of stories, and it wouldn't surprise a lot of folks. And I think I occasionally will spark some white guilt in folks when I tell some of my stories from back home. But the way that I do that, at least the way that I try to do that, is from a perspective of having had that experience, processed it, and grown from it in a way that I understand. I've never wanted to come from a place of like fear or victimhood when I talk about those issues. And so I feel like I need to have processed them before I can take them to the audience. So because I've done that, I can tell a story where someone was pretty directly nasty and racist to me, but in a way that I find funny. And my hope is that that makes the audience laugh and have a good time, but also stop and think, oh yeah, that guy was pretty out of line, and I would never say anything like that. The one example I have of this is I was talking to a guy in Eastern Oregon, and he one time, it was for work actually, and I was with him on his ranch. We were talking about his financial future, and he was showing me around his ranch. And I told him that because we were out in kind of the rolling hills of Eastern Oregon, that it reminded me of home. And he said, "Oh, where's home?" And I said, "Oh, Iowa. This reminds me a lot of the plains." And he said to me, no bull. He turned to me and he said, "Oh, the plains, that's wild. I would have assumed you knew the jungle a little bit better." And I laughed. I was obviously caught off guard by this. I'm at work, so this isn't a story about me fighting this guy, but I tell that story. I see you smirk when I say that. You've been in this position, I'm sure, a million times. White people are going to hear that story and gasp a little bit, but I hopefully see that I receive the comedy in that, and they're not feeling bad for me. They're kind of in with me on that joke. So that's kind of the comedy with the levity. I think the levity with the comedy, I have another joke that I tell about that starts off with how upset I am about how uncreative movie titles have gotten, how everything's just part X, subtitle Y or whatever. And it becomes a joke about politics and about how, because we've become so unoriginal in our consumption of art, we've also become unoriginal in the types of politicians that we seek out. And that's put us in the position we are in now, where we are basically watching a reboot. We're right now watching a reboot, a lot of people would say, of, the 1920s and 30s today. And so starting from a point of, I think I Know What You Did Last Summer, the sequel to that movie is inappropriately titled, which is just a goofy thing that only I care about. And then kind of broadening that to, yeah, but here's what that maybe means for the rest of us. So that's where I have a lot of fun, is trying to do both those things at the same time.
Let's dig into your personal life a little bit. Married?
In a relationship.
Children?
My partner, Gina. No kids yet.
You're also a financial advisor.
Yes.
And serve on the board for Volunteers in Medicine. That's quite a balance for you. How do you connect your day job and community work with your creative life?
Yeah. I think the most obvious thing there is just balance, as you said. My day job is a lot of numbers. It's a lot of grinding, a lot of calculating, kind of left brain stuff. And so having the balance of that, and then just getting to go home and kind of be goofy, or go out, take off the suit, put on the sweats, and kind of just go mess around with my friends. That balance is really important to me. But also, I get to meet a lot of people and hear a lot of different perspectives and hear about different people's struggles. I work in wealth management, so most of my families don't have financial hardship, but they have other things that they're dealing with, and I get to hear about that and hear about a lot of perspectives. When it comes to volunteers in medicine, I am working with people on the opposite side of the financial spectrum. So for me, having a balance and awareness that even though most of my life is spent with people who have a lot of privilege and have a lot of freedom and ability to do what they want, I also need to be aware and connected to the people that aren't that fortunate. And I really try to work with my clients to get them to see how they can be helpful. One of the best parts of my job is I can help people be charitable. And so I can help connect them to causes and help show them that they can indeed be a force in their own community. If they didn't think they had enough wealth to really be that, I can kind of demonstrate how they can do that. So it all does work together. I think the type of community I want to be in is one where everyone's well educated and can manage their own finances independently, one where everybody can be healthy, and that's kind of the volunteers in medicine side, and one where everyone can be happy. And so I think if I can touch each of those things in a given week, I feel like I'm in alignment.
How do you think local Black creatives, comedians, artists, or entrepreneurs find support or visibility in communities like Bend?
That's an interesting one. I can tell you what's worked for me, and it's not my favorite answer. But for me, the things that have worked well are ones where I'm intersecting. So I've had some of my more successful comedy shows have been ones where the audience is maybe more of a white audience, but we're bringing a Black show to them. You know, we did a show a few years ago. One of my favorite shows I've ever done was it was a drunk history show, but it was Black history. So it was during the month of February. The comics all, get drunk and then try to tell you a history lesson about, it was at that time, it was Black historical figures. And the intersection of that was really interesting because you have the white community who wants to be supportive coming in to learn, and you have me and the other comics representing the Black community trying to share our stories. And so you have a mixture of people who are curious and want to learn and people who are there to share stories. That's really what has worked for me. I hate to say that you kind of have to reach across the community, but with the size of our community, that kind of is what it is, so I don't think it's possible to be too insular and closed off. As much as I wish there were more scenes and more things that were exclusively for Black people, I don't think we have a big enough community to really do that and be successful in the way that each of us wants to. And so having good representation and telling our stories our way, but finding the pockets of community here in Bend that are ready to hear those and want to hear those and have that curiosity, I think that's kind of where the synergy can be created. But you have to look to find it, and I think that's the hard part.
Right. Okay, so when people leave your shows, what do you want them to walk away thinking or feeling?
I guess just that I hope that I've challenged an assumption that they were making. Right? I think that's the biggest thing. A lot of my material right now starts from a point of, hey, look at me, take me in, make your assumptions about me, and then let me explain why those assumptions are probably wrong. And so I guess my hope at the end of the show is for folks to come away thinking, oh, I guess I shouldn't have assumed that about that person, or maybe I won't assume that the next time. I talk a lot about, being mixed or being Black and how I'm not exactly what you'd assume if you just know that, about being a man, and how I'm not exactly what you'd think about that, and how I think all of those things exist in ways that allow us to be really creative within those definitions. But if people try to create boxes, I like that people create the boxes because it gives me material. I can create comedy with those boxes. But if you try to live your everyday life assuming that people are going to fit into those, you're going to miss a lot of things. And so my hope is that people, the next mixed race person that they meet, hopefully they go in with more curiosity and less assumptions. I guess that's the most high-minded version of it. I think if they come away thinking, hey, that mixed kid was pretty goofy, I'll take that too. But I prefer it if there's a little bit of a lesson tucked in.
And finally, if you could go back and talk to that goofy kid from Iowa who didn't yet know he'd be standing on stages making people laugh for a living, what would you tell him?
Yeah, this one's easy for me. It would be that the things that were really hard for me back then, feeling a little bit isolated, not feeling like I had a bunch of community, knowing then that those things were going to become my strength and become my value, that would be the thing I would go back and tell him, that, stay back, stay patient, continue to observe, and those things are always going to benefit you in the long run. The folks that try to make you feel alone and isolated are the ones that are going to struggle later in life to find community. And you're not going to have that problem later on. So I think that's really the thing, is that thing that used to be a real source of insecurity is kind of become a strength.
All right. And for those people that listen to WBR that may not know who you are, where can they find you next?
Yeah, so the best place for me is Instagram at Cody is funny. I always say that's an aspiration, not a review. So, your mileage may vary. But at Cody is funny. My next show is the Forget About It variety special. That is coming up on November 16th. I'm going to double check the date on that. Yeah, that one's coming up on Sunday, November 16th. That's going to be at the Oxford. It's an Alzheimer's charity fundraiser, Alzheimer's Association fundraiser put on by my girlfriend, Gina. I mentioned her earlier. She runs the production company Melrose Productions here in town, and this is their big annual Alzheimer's fundraiser, second annual. We had a really successful one last year. There'll be music, really incredible comedy. Zach Lyman is going to be the headliner. He's got an Amazon special, national headliner. They just booked a musician from The Voice who is going to be on there. I wish I could remember her name, but people who are fans of the show will recognize her. So just search Forget About It Bend. I think tickets are on Eventbrite, and they'll be advertising here locally over the next couple of weeks. So Forget About It on November 16th. That'll be the next one.
Cool. That was comedian and community builder Cody Michael, reminding us that laughter isn't just about jokes. It's about connection, truth, and courage to stand in your story. Thanks, Cody, for coming in, brother.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate you.
That's Cody Michael, man. Real talented dude. All right, for our final piece, I'm going to talk about the unveiling of the Barry Washington Jr. Memorial. This memorial has been 4 years in the making, and a lot of people put their heart and soul into protecting this memorial, keeping an eye on it. They had to change some city codes to be able to accommodate this memorial for this fallen young man whose life was inexcusably taken. So I wanted to talk to community members about the importance of the memorial and what it meant to them. So I was able, before runtime, to get a hold of my man, Kenny Adams from the Fathers Group, and talk with him about it. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, well, I mean, this obviously was a long time coming. And, I mean, truthfully, from my standpoint, I feel like this was kind of the least that could be done. Like, there should be, in my opinion, there should be more. Not only in the guise of support, not, for Lawanda and Barry's family, but also in reflection of that Ben needs to do better. But, I do want to focus on the memorial itself. It's a gorgeous plaque that's there, and, it's quite literally set in stone. And I think that for the family, as well as for the people that have been doing consistent work in this town, and a lot of people think that work began in 2020 in Central Oregon, and it dates back over 100 years ago, really.
Yes.
But with the dedicated work that's been done in Central Oregon, being able to reflect on Barry Washington's life and also have that as something to reinvigorate our stride to get justice for Deshaun Adderley, and also to focus on prevention of having to have more names that we have to memorialize in this area. So for me, it's a bag of mixed emotions. I mean, there's wins, and then there's also sobering aspect of it that just reminds us that there's still so much more work that needs to be done.
That was Kenny Adams of the Fathers Group. And he's right. It's like a two-edged sword. I forget the name of the book or the movie that started out. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times, right? Excitement about this memorial that I remember it being mutilated, flowers kicked over, destroyed, a whole Facebook group created to keep an eye on it and a watch on it, keep it clean. A whole community is involved or was involved in this memorial. The two sides of it, happiness and a little bit of, there's more work to do. I really wanted to talk to Miss LaWanda about her feelings about the memorial because, after all, it is her son. And I'm so happy her and the family got a chance to attend the memorial. Of course, right? More hard work being done. But I wanted to share, and she did too, her feelings about this memorial, and why can I say it, and what it meant to her. Here's what she had to say.
The memorial, I thought, was wonderful. Me and my family came out there. We had a safe trip. It was a very positive trip. And the memorial to me is just so sacred. Is like it will never bring my son back, and it will never make my pain any less. But just to know that he's going to be remembered forever, it's a permanent memorial. It just makes me feel so good. I really give special thanks to Josie and the city of Bend, the community that did so much, putting forth their time and effort, and, people that donated, people that has prayed and marched for BJ's justice, and just everyone that has been a part of this, big or small. I just really appreciate and will always love them.
This is the Truth Ride. This is We Black Radio. This is where real talk meets real healing. Today we had the honor of speaking with the mother of Barry Washington Jr., a young man whose name continues to echo in our hearts. As we reflect on his new memorial, let's remember, this isn't just about pain, it's about purpose. Barry's story reminds us that when one life is lost, a whole community feels it. But it also reminds us of our power, the power to stand together, the power to protect one another, and to make love louder than hate. So today, let's do more than remember. Let's reach out. Let's check in on our neighbors. Let's lift up our youth. Let's show that unity isn't just a word, it's an action. From Bend to beyond, this is our time to rise as one people, one voice, and one community. Let's keep Barry's light shining by living in the truth and walking in love today. That's our show for this week. We'll catch you on the next Truth Ride.
It's just us against the world. I ain't perfect, but I know it. Can get caught up in my feelings, so sometimes it's hard to show it. Every day I'm chasing money. First I save it, then I blow it. I done came so damn far, still don't know where I be going. Let the truth ride. Got a lot of fam that hold it down. I'm talking both sides, so anytime a nigga wanna joke, the dark night rise. I'm tired of walking around. It's time to see a dark guy fly. So catch me when I land, cause I be high. Ayy. Let the truth ride, ayy. Let the truth ride, yeah. Let the truth ride, ayy. Let the truth ride, yeah. Let the truth ride, ayy. Let the truth ride, yeah. Let the truth ride, ayy. Let the truth ride, yeah.